Public Affairs very much thanks Residco, our sole corporate underwriter, for helping to make the production of this show possible.
It's the poorest town in the poorest state in the United States of America. I am a second-generation college graduate. I am 2 generations off of Chula cotton fields. So when we talk about inequity and we talk about poverty and we talk about all of those things, my family was able to overcome those things because we did not wallow in the labels that were assigned to us. This is America, and anybody who wants to eat in America is feasting. Now, it may be a little difficult as you grow your harvest, but those who want to participate in the greatness of this country, they're definitely able to do it. I'm a second-generation Chicago public school graduate. So the schools function if those expectations are set. But if you have the people at the top telling you, you're not going to make it, you're poor, you're Black, your community doesn't matter, you're going to die. This pre-George Floyd, post-George Floyd. Because within that Black Lives Matter period, the world hosted a pity party for Black people. And the prevalent notion became these people are so victimized and so hurt that we have to lower all expectations and get rid of all accountability in order to make them whole.
You could say it's the union or it's the teachers. Does the union teach the teachers what to think?
Well, the union definitely guides the brand. And so again, you have people who focus on the fact that these children are overcoming these terrible standards or these terrible conditions rather than saying, let's use our power as educators to empower them. No, it's all about making sure that we feel sorry for them. And again, this is what you get when you're dealing with the soft bigotry of low expectations. They believe that Black people are a charity and that we are not capable of functioning as full Americans in our own country. And therefore, they create these exceptions for us within the society that creates more chaos. They don't want this for themselves, only for Black people.
So how does Brandon Johnson, he escaped all this. He became mayor, right? If Black people can't perform and can't be held accountable, how is it he got to be mayor?
These are the questions that I have. All of these people, all of these Black people who are talking about the inequities within our society existing on a systemic level. I'm like, so what makes you the notable exception? How did you overcome
Lori
it?
Lightfoot.
I mean, we can go on and on.
Kim Fox, state's attorney. Chief Judge Evans, Timothy Evans, Circuit Court of Cook County.
64%.
Last time I looked, they were all Black.
Correct. 64% of Black America is middle class, but you would never know that if you watch the news.
P Rea, what's wrong with education in Chicago?
We're dealing with the effects of the soft bigotry of low expectations.
Soft bigotry of low expectations.
Yes.
But it has to be more because Wirepoints says Chicago spends 40% more per student in the last 4 years. From 2019 to 2023, they went from $20,000 per student to $29,000 per student. And yet the number of Black CPS students who were reading at grade level in 2019 was 18%. So what we got for that 10,000 more, 9,000 more per student, we pushed the percentage down of Black CPS students who read at grade level down to 17%. And Hispanic students, it's 22% who read at grade level. That is such a, how can you, folks, just think of that. So when we're saying 17% of Black CPS students read at grade level, 83% do not. On the Hispanic side, it's 78% who do not. Roughly 1 out of every 4 does, roughly, and 3 out of every 4 don't. And when we say don't read at grade level, I think mostly they don't read. I think they don't read. I mean, have you heard that statistic before?
I have, actually. I study literacy very intently because I work as a literacy consultant as well. And so when we look at the slide and the breakdown, a lot of people consider this pre-COVID and post-COVID. I look at this pre-George Floyd, post George Floyd, because within that Black Lives Matter period, the world hosted a pity party for Black people. And the prevalent notion became these people are so victimized and so hurt that we have to lower all expectations and get rid of all accountability in order to make them whole. And so when we look at these slides or go through the information, you're going to see that all of the statistics get significantly worse after the Black Lives Matter George Floyd protests.
But let me just let me challenge that a bit, because in 2019, which was a year before George Floyd, the percentage of Black CPS students reading at grade level was only 18%.
It was still abysmal, yes, absolutely.
I mean, that 1% doesn't bother me as much as the 18 or 17.
It was still the soft bigotry of low expectations.
It was, but it had nothing to do with George Floyd.
No. I'm saying that the decline has to do.
You can argue that.
Yes.
I'm just saying I differ because I doubt it's statistically significant. You know, we use science, but we don't want to hope. The point you're making, I think, the bigger point, the bigotry of soft expectations, seemingly was coined by George W. Bush. That's the first time I heard it, right?
I believe it was Rush Limbaugh, but yes.
Whatever. It's a bad thing.
It's a horrible thing.
And you're saying that was present even before George Floyd.
Absolutely.
So that 18% we're talking about in 2019, you're saying that, to you, that's the main explanation.
Correct.
Is that right? The main explanation?
The main explanation, because we have institutions that already believe that they know who's going to be valuable in the society. And so when the children go to these institutions, the teachers and just everyone involved in the institution believe that, they're not going to make it anyway, so we're just going to pass them through. They're overcoming all of these horrible things, and therefore we must lower the standards for them. And now low standards have gotten us, an 18% passage rate, or now 17% in 2023.
Okay, if that's the case, so it's the teachers at CPS and the teachers union, the Chicago teachers?
Yes.
Who is to blame for the soft bigotry of low expectations?
Well, I think it's a societal thing, definitely, but I would also say that it starts with the union, because the union has moved from being student-focused to politically focused. And so when you have that transition, they're not focused on overcoming that soft bigotry of low expectations. They're not focused on saying the Chicago public schools produce scholars and geniuses, and you are on our team to produce the next scholars. No, they're saying, oh, these children are so bad. Oh, they come from these low income, high risk situations, and therefore we must pity them. We must lower the academic standards. We must lower everything so that they can keep up. But the trick is that no one keeps up. Even as you lower the standards, people still aren't producing.
You can say it's the union or it's the teachers. Does the union teach the teachers what to think?
Well, the union definitely guides the brand. And so again, you have people who focus on the fact that these children are overcoming these terrible standards or these terrible conditions, rather than saying, let's use our power as educators to empower them. No, it's all about making sure that we feel sorry for them. And again, this is what you get when you're dealing with the soft bigotry of low expectations.
But it's around the state of Illinois, according to Wirepoints. I mean, Rockford, percent of third grade students that read at grade level in 2019. Rockford, 7%. Peoria, 8%. Quincy, 28%. Well, they're doing well. Decatur, 16%. No, 16% is for whites. I don't know what is for blacks. They don't seem to have it there, but I'm sure it's quite a bit lower, or maybe I'm just not seeing it. Mount Vernon, blacks, 0%. Quincy was whites, that's 28%. Thank you for catching that. Peoria is black, 8%. Rockford, black, 7%. Waukegan, Hispanic, 16%. Elgin, Hispanic, 11%. Decatur, whites. It's not just a black problem or an Hispanic problem, it's a white problem. Well, Decatur, white, 16%. It's not just a Chicago problem, it's an Illinois problem, Governor Pritzker. You like JB, right?
Oh, no, JB wasn't my choice.
No, but to you, saying it was the CTU, It's way broader than the CTU.
Well,
isn't
we're
it?
dealing with this
Chicago Teachers Union.
on a broader scale. When schools went from being academically focused to social emotional learning, you can't focus on feelings and reading at the same time. And so if you look at these spaces, like Rockford is a very liberal space, Waukegan is very liberal. Anywhere you find liberals or a liberal government, you're going to find a lot of pity.
Like Tavis Smiley, he'd be a liberal, right?
Yes.
Like Rufus Williams.
Yes, those
or
are all the
they call themselves
progressives.
progressives.
Yes.
We call them liberals,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or you do. I'm fair balanced. Okay? Rufus, come on the show. Tavis, come on the show.
Yeah.
I'll give you a fair shot. But no, it's true because you're being to jump ahead. You are at WVON.
Yes.
You're now you're on Sundays from 5 to 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's when you're on. What's the name of your show?
Black Excellence Hour.
Okay. But before, not too long ago, you were on there for a few years and you were doing a lot more time during the week, right?
Yeah, I was hosting the evening show.
And what time is that on?
Mondays and Tuesdays from 6 to 9.
But you're no longer doing that, right?
No,
Who's doing it now?
Tavis Smiley.
Oh, that happened because your ratings were low?
Absolutely not. I'm Chicago's favorite show.
So what happened? Somebody got upset? Who got upset?
I think that Black Excellence Hour, which is a show for people with high self-esteem, we have been very successful in helping people realize that they're not getting the best deal from the Democratic Party. I'm very data specific. I play actual audio from speeches. We read actual legislation. And I tell people, now that you know this, put your gym shoes on, tie them up very tight, and get ready to run to the right. We're done with these people.
So you're a Republican?
Absolutely.
You're a conservative?
Yes.
You're a Negro?
Yes.
You prefer that term?
Yes, I prefer
right?
Negro. Yes, that's
Why?
correct.
Give it to me in 30 seconds.
Because the Negro is a part of the non-immigrant class of this country. We were given birthright citizenship by the U.S. Congress. Black people include foreign black people. And so we're being mixed into the immigrant class, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the Negro. We have our own very specific, special relationship with the U.S. government, no different than the Cherokee or Choctaw.
Not a bad word.
No.
There's nothing to run from, Negro. In fact, your station was founded by whom?
By Purvis Spann.
And when he founded it, what did VON stand for?
Well, both he and Wesley South, that was W, Voice of the Negro.
Voice of the Negro.
Yes.
But somebody said, hey, we better change that. We can't use that word anymore, right?
Correct.
So what's its name now?
Voice of the Nation.
Would you still call it VON, Voice of the Negro?
Correct. Because Negro ties us to this country. That's what's in American historical documents, not black.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to this. We may need to have to do another show with you because the problems of education in Chicago and around the state are so much more.
Correct.
Could be the education schools that teach the soft bigotry of low expectations. Right? And they're not just in Illinois, and they're not just in Chicago and their government. They're in all the major cities that have inner cities. They tend to be populated by liberal or progressive politicians.
Correct.
And that party is in control, and a lot of that. So it's across the country. Yeah.
I totally agree. And this is why we have chaos all over the country, because we have this self-imposed ruling class that believes that they're the notable exceptions and everybody else gets to eat cake.
So there's nothing equitable about it because we hear DIE, diversity, inclusion, and equity, right? This can't be equity for the 83% of black CPS students who currently are not reading at grade level, right?
Correct.
That's not fair.
No.
That's not equitable. What do you think Governor Pritzker would say about that?
Well, I can't say what he would say.
What should he say?
I think that he should stop treating black people as if we are a charity and hold us to the same level as every other high thriving citizen of this country. We've been here the longest.
Well, what should he do to fix it? Is there a magic elixir? And obviously, you don't want soft bigotry of the soft bigotry of low expectations. But if you can't change that, even if they kept that, we can fix it, can't we?
Correct.
How would you fix it?
We would fix that by holding the teachers more accountable. I believe that the unions have gotten themselves into a space where the teachers aren't held accountable. And so if the teachers aren't held accountable,
Who could hold them accountable?
the state, that's who pays
Forget
them.
the state, the parents,
The
right?
parents, of course.
Right now they can't because Right now we're spending to $29,000, and that's not controlled by the parents.
Right.
Who controls that? The state government, the city government, the feds, right?
Correct.
But there's a way in which we could take those $29,000 and give it to the parents and do what?
And then the parents could choose where they want their children to be educated with those funds.
School choice, right?
Correct.
Where could they go?
They could go to private schools if they like. They could go to parochial schools.
Or
It's up
stay
to
in the
them.
public school?
Or stay in the public schools if they
Traditional
like.
neighborhood school. Maybe there'd be a lot more neighborhood schools that were private and vouchers. Demand creates its own supply. Give the market some time. People say, Obama said, market failure many years ago. But Barack, come on back, because we could continue that discussion. No, the market wasn't failing. Is these folks had $4,000 of income purchasing power. Give them what the state and the feds and the city is spending, the $29,000, then those folks could do fine and the market would do fine, right?
Yeah, the market would definitely self-correct.
So easy to fix these things. It's really, thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
P Rea. You go by P Rea, right?
Yes.
Everybody can find you P Rea.
Yes.
It's like Oprah copied you. She's a one-word lady.
Yes.
Can I say that? Is that too sexy?
No.
Use the phrase. One word, one name.
Yes.
P Rea, right?
P Rea. That's me.
P-R-A-E, right?
Correct.
All right. Well, we've solved all the education problems. We solved CPS. Boy, I don't know. This show could end up being short because, oh no, we got another problem. Oh yeah, I think, what's our other major problem here in Chicago? Wherever you look, what's the biggest problem?
We're living in Gotham. Crime is now legal in Cook County. There's crime everywhere. We're drowning in crime.
Because it's legal.
Correct.
Because if you do something illegal, what's going to happen to you?
You're supposed to go to jail.
Well, to start with, you'd have to be
Arrested.
apprehended and
Correct.
arrested. What's our arrest rate? It's like
8%.
5% overall? Yeah, for murder, it might be up to 30%. If you kill somebody, eventually they find you. If you shoot somebody, there's no chance. That's back down to 5%. Sexual assault, probably criminal sexual assault, 5%. So we don't arrest, do we?
No.
Why not?
Because again, the soft bigotry of low expectations, if we were to properly police, then that possibly could turn into more societal racism. And because we're running away from racism and this group of pitiful people that the government has created, now people aren't being arrested. Now we have policy changes where the police can't make the arrests. And it has led to a higher amount of crime.
So we don't chase people. We don't chase
No.
them on foot. We don't chase them in car.
No.
We say, hey, that's too risky. Somebody may get hurt. We see 4 guys jumping out of a car and robbing somebody, and there are police around, and they start chasing them. They check with their sergeant, and he says, back off, right?
Yes.
Because these guys look bad and dangerous. 4 tough guys, right? And they got big rifles, long guns, right? Let them go. Where do they go then?
Back to the street.
They just do the next one and the next one.
Well, I can tell you where that change came from. There was a woman, she was 86 years old. This happened right by my house. The police were chasing someone and they hit the car she was in and she died. And the city had to pay a substantial settlement after that. That's when the chase policy changed. But for me, that's just a freak accident. That's not enough to change the entire policy that now has made the whole city less safe.
800 homicides in 2021, those 2 years, right?
Correct.
And 80% of the victims were black, I believe.
Correct.
I mean, is that equity?
No.
No, it isn't, J.B. Pritzker. It isn't. Join the crowd. Where do you live?
I live in Austin.
You say it's safe.
I would say I'm pretty safe in Austin. I love it there.
Where do you think J.B. lives?
He lives on the Gold Coast.
You think that'd be a little safer?
Yes.
Got security around him. He doesn't need a gun. All the people around him have guns, right?
Right.
He doesn't need a gun. You might need a gun, right?
Absolutely.
It's an equalizer, right?
Correct.
Does he want to take your gun away?
Yes, he does. And he's doing everything that he can to take it away. And we must remember that 100% of gun control is racist. Gun control started in this country as a way to keep the freedmen from owning guns pre-Civil War in the state of Louisiana. That's when the Republican Party was founded in 1854.
Well, yeah, and there are lots of bad people. It's all not race, but that's one of the reasons why we have the Second Amendment, right?
Correct, because a freedman without a gun risks becoming a slave. And so in order to get those freedmen under control, they started to systemically take away their guns so that they could be kidnapped and sold back into slavery. That's why gun control is a horrible thing for not only Americans, but especially Black people. It makes us less safe.
Yeah, so this is so obvious. These are Republican ideas, right?
Correct.
Not Democratic ideas. And yet 90%, I think, is the figure of Black folks vote for Democrats, right?
Correct.
Why?
Well, I think it's multifaceted. Firstly, when our ancestors migrated here from the South, the Democratic Party was in control. And in order for them to properly integrate into the society, they had to join the political party of power. So it's not like everyone just said, hey, we're all going to become Democrats now. No, the Democrat Party actually recruited a lot of the Black Republican leaders to their party in the early 60s and late 50s as a way to grow the party's power. And Black people just started to get used to the racism of the party. They're used to fighting. They're used to picketing. They're used to trying to come up with some type of negotiation.
They're used to bad schools. They're used to crime-infested neighborhoods.
Correct.
They're used to drug-infested neighborhoods. Because JB wouldn't live under these conditions.
No.
He lives on the Gold Coast. You know? I don't know. He may be having some problems with crime these days, too. But, you know, with all his security, probably not.
Right.
But
maybe his neighbors.
But nothing like the conditions faced in the South Side and the West Side.
Correct.
Where the preponderance of crime occurs. And he's not doing anything. Do you think the Republicans want to do something about
I know that they want to do something about it. The Republicans have spoken out about the Safety Act that has allowed people just to, commit crimes and go back home.
Okay.
And again, that when you have a society that does not show that there is accountability for breaking the laws, you're going to get more lawlessness.
It's kind of simple, right? It's common sense. Because, crime continues to go way up, no matter how you measure it, says Wirepoints. 2023 crime in Chicago is up significantly compared to 2022, right? Major crimes up year to date, 2023 to 2022, 30%, 29 to be exact, but we'll call it 30. No matter how you measure it. Chicago crime is up 29%, major crimes versus the same period last year, up to September 17. You can look at the components. Murder's down, but everything else is up. So the city says crime is down.
Right.
Nobody checks. NBC doesn't check. They report what they say, but they don't fact checks these things. Wirepoints is around, not that hard.
Well, again, if they were to tell the truth, then they would really have to talk about the roots of this, and then that would expose the racism of the liberal class. Again, they believe that Black people are a charity and that we are not capable of functioning as full Americans in our own country. And therefore, they create these exceptions for us within the society that creates more chaos. They don't want this for themselves, only for Black people.
So how does Brandon Johnson, he escaped all this. He became mayor, right? If Black people can't perform and can't be held accountable, how is it he got to be mayor?
These are the questions that I have. All of these Black people who are talking about the inequities within our society existing on a systemic level. I'm like, so what makes you the notable exception? How did you overcome
Lori
it?
Lightfoot.
We can go on and on.
Kim Fox, state's attorney. Chief Judge Evans, Timothy Evans, Circuit Court of Cook County.
64%.
Last time I looked, they were all Black.
Correct. 64% of Black America is middle class, but you would never know that if you watch the news because they focus on the lower income, impoverished levels, and when they associate Black people with socioeconomic class. And so then it creates the mentality that all Black people are living in this poverty-induced chaos when that's not the truth.
So this is why we should worship Brandon Johnson, because he's exceptional.
No, he's regular.
He's regular.
These are regular things.
But how come these other folks that he wants to protect and lower accountability and let them commit crimes and let them not perform in school and let them not learn how to read? Isn't that what he wants?
Well,
He says you have to do that, Jeff, because he says the economic status, look at their family, they don't have the wealth. He said to me, I want to blame the teachers. I want to blame the students. Okay? I want to blame the parents. And I said to him, or tried to say, no, I want to blame you.
Yes.
You're the Chicago Teachers Union, 17 years there. He didn't let me say that at a press conference. He didn't want to hear that. No, so I said, I want to blame the Chicago Teachers Union. That's you, Brandon Johnson. Just so we're clear. Come on the show and you can refute it.
So I want to just pivot and talk about myself a little bit.
Yes.
My family is from Chula, Mississippi. Chula is spelled with a T, Tchula. It's in central Mississippi, and it's the poorest town in the poorest state in the United States of America. I am a second-generation college graduate. I am 2 generations off of Chula cotton fields. So when we talk about inequity and we talk about poverty and we talk about all of those things, my family was able to overcome those things because we did not wallow in the labels that were assigned to us. This is America, and anybody who wants to eat in America is feasting. Now, it may be a little difficult as you grow your harvest, but those who want to participate in the greatness of this country, they're definitely able to do it. I'm a second generation Chicago public school graduate. So the schools function if those expectations are set. But if you have the people at the top telling you, you're not going to make it, you're poor, you're black, your community doesn't matter, you're going to die, your food isn't good, your mom doesn't love you because she didn't stay with your dad, all of these negative things, then it reduces people's drive to reach higher. That's racist. And that's why I tell people it's the liberals, it's the Democrats. Those are the racist people because they never have anything good to say about black people. Nothing.
When did this start?
I would say, you mean my mentality?
No, when did these liberals start never having anything good to say about black people?
Post-Civil War.
And indoctrinate them with this idea of low expectations because they can't succeed.
The progressive era, post-Reconstruction, when the progressive era was ushered in.
Things were going okay sort of after the Civil War, even though such a large percentage of blacks had recently been
Emancipated,
slaves.
correct.
Yeah, they were emancipated. Before then, they were slaves. How did they progress so quickly?
Because the expectations were there. They were proud to be Americans. They were ready to contribute to their country as citizens and not as slaves.
So this is what a black professor said, I don't know his name, in Florida, is they had a program, and part of their program was to teach how blacks, even during slavery, he wasn't saying slavery was good, folks. He said even during the horrors of slavery, blacks were able to overcome many of those obstacles.
Yes.
Right? He was trying to make the point, folks, about resilience. Notice the use of the R word, and what the liberals did was turn that into he's a racist.
Yes, and this was a black man who came up with this plan. But again,
I'm laughing because it's so bizarre. It's not funny. It's ridiculous.
Well, and again,
and yet our media went for it.
The white liberals, again, because they are so racist that they are able to take a message of American success and resilience related to the Negro and turn it into racism. How dare you tell those people they were great? How dare you tell them how well they did in our country? How dare you have a story other than victimhood? No, you're a racist.
Vice President said that, right? Who's our vice president?
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. She's supposedly black or a woman of color. Which is it?
She is a Jamaican Indian woman, but she's not a Negro.
She's not a Negro.
No.
She would say she's black.
She is part black, yes.
And yet you're saying she's the racist?
Well, I would say that she's espousing racist ideas because, again, she believes that she's the notable exception. Well, I was able to do this because my parents had this type of opportunity. They were traveling professors. I wasn't like those poor Negroes living in those slums around America. But those Negroes in those slums, they never can make it. They'll never pull up. And so it's our job as a society and government to take care of them. And that's just not true.
P Rea.
Yes.
You come back.
Anytime.
Often to public affairs because there's a lot more to discuss.
Thank you.
And you come back next week and every week to public affairs.